you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Marcia Parker.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here, and we are double teaming once again another Patreon review. This is a request from School Bus Steve. Thank you so much, man, one of our longtime supporters here. And we are talking about a film that just recently debuted on Netflix, but I actually saw this last January at the virtual Sundance Film Festival called Coming Home in the Dark. And it's more so on the thriller side of things than on like the full-on horror, but this is a film that some messed up stuff happens in this movie, and there's some mystery that layers are peeled back as you find out connections between certain characters and whatnot. If I recall correctly, this film is out of New Zealand, if I remember correctly.
It felt like right around there, Australian, something like that.
Yeah, it's from one of those two, countries slash,
one of those accents.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Because I know they're all, I think they're all Oceania, if I remember, like the regions that are for like Olympic purposes and World Cup.
It definitely is another movie that makes me not want to go to the Outback.
Hell to the kneesing. But so since I saw this, about a year ago at this particular point, I was still pretty impressed with the effectiveness. It really goes right to it. You have a vacationing family that has these two unsavory characters start kind of tormenting, turning into terrorizing, and this film really makes itself known pretty early on that it is not gonna fuck around. And yeah, it's
not a happy ending.
No, not at all. There's a lot disturbing in this, and this is one of those films where, as much as I love creatures and, supernatural type of horror films, this is one that reminds you that real life, just evil people is some of the scariest stuff that you can encounter in a film like this.
Monsters, the worst monsters are real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since you just watched this, what did you think?
Yeah, it really changed my headspace. I think I mentioned that earlier. It was, at first I'm like, okay, la 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 la, and then next thing I know, I mean, the one line that the guy goes, well, this is the moment where when you look back, this is the moment you wish you would have done something, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then he did like the worst thing anybody could do in that moment, and it was incredible. Is that the bit earlier in the film where they're kind of having the picnic sort of bit? And then things escalate.
What happens?
Yeah, and I don't want to give it away because it is a moment.
Yeah, because there's a few twists. There's the early twist as to what happens with one particular character, and then there's also a reveal in like the mid to third act where the character connection that I was mentioning.
Yeah, because in the very beginning you think, oh wait, it could go a different direction, right? Like maybe they move on and they terrorize somebody else or whatever. Yeah.
Because it's really like, is this random or is there a specificity? Were they targeted specifically?
Yeah. So it was an interesting story to watch, and it really had that. It gave you the creepoids, like Last House on the Left, and we just did a review on Hitcher. And really just
because they're in a remote area in this too, albeit it's much more beautiful than like in the Hitcher where you're in like the middle of nowhere in the southwest of America.
But you got some villain. Your villains are a dog with a bone, right? They're not gonna let it go, and you find out why, and like you're kind of just like, man, people are effed, like it doesn't feel good at the end, but at the same time, it was really well done.
There's almost a justice being served kind of aspect to what happens in the third act, because there's connective tissue that goes back to like your adolescent school days kind of thing, without spoiling stuff specifically. And I thought the script was taut, intense, and they maintained that edge of your seat cliche that we all talk about. Then and you say, oh, this film had me on the edge of my seat, but this one genuinely did, because there is an essence of toying with the person and just the psychological torment. It's like, no, I'm not trying to kill you, I want to torture you, so to speak. And effective performances, especially because there's two guys, but there is one who is most definitely leading the charge, so to speak, and his performance is damn good. I gotta say.
I think all the way around, like the whole cast was picked very well. They all did a great job. And the other thing I really liked is that the victims, even though they were victims and they played that really hard line of, do I do something, do I not do something, because it could go either way for them, right? And so, the fact that, they did what they thought was best, and then they were also able to find opportunities and make opportunities to potentially survive this. So I did like the human, it felt more human, it felt more real, like when they realized, well, okay, I've, this, I have to either make a move or just accept my fate at this point. So I thought that was really well done, because it could have just been annoying that everybody just kind of like, or it could have just been like, oh, everything's just like happened to work out for us,
Yeah.
So I thought,
no, it's that shade of gray for sure.
It was very balanced in that way, like a lot of give and take. Like it was, like watching a conversation. It felt real in a way, like this could be a real situation.
Oh yeah, I felt like I was in the car with them.
Yeah.
In a lot of those especially tense sequences, and even when they do kind of branch out and bring a couple other characters here and there in, like the stuff at the raceway. I mean, it still didn't feel like it was slowing down the pace or anything. It just upped the terror factor, and also the dynamic between the husband and wife and how it shifts throughout as certain other things are revealed and as plans are being formulated as to how we can try to get out of this situation. I mean, this was just a very effective between solid scripting and acting. I mean, it was definitely one that, of all the horror selections I watched last year at Sundance, stuck with me and that I thought a lot about, but it's definitely not a good time. It is, like, I love my horror with humor. This is devoid completely. This is about as serious as it gets, so brace yourself.
Right, and if you're sensitive to movies like, the Last House on the Left and Hitcher and maybe, Funny Games, things
stuff
like
happening
that.
with children.
Then I wouldn't recommend this movie to you. If you're like, no, I mean, you don't have to be okay with the content to enjoy it. I don't want to be like, oh, I love this type of stuff. But there was a time in my life where I could watch this type of stuff and not be as affected.
Yeah.
So I just like to put that label out there, because I have found like there's I'll recommend a movie to somebody. I'm like, oh, you know what you should watch this movie, and they're like, I had to shut it off in 2 seconds because of this and this, and I was like, oh, I didn't think about how that would affect you. I apologize. So I would throw that out there. If you're sensitive to those things, I would not watch this movie. Other
you have
than
been
that,
forewarned.
It is worth watching, and
if
you are, it felt very like true crime in a way.
Big time. Yeah.
And I do enjoy those type of movies just because it just emulates, the worst moments, right? So, and that humans can be.
Seriously, and you get a little bit of it on both sides in this film without really giving too much away. So, Scuba Steve, I'm so very glad that you brought this film back to our attention. Another viewing for me, and then, Marcia getting to check it out for the first time. Once again, it is on Netflix, so if you are one of the throngs of subscribers, definitely check it out, though, just to double down, not for the faint of heart. So I guess that's going to be it for us, Marcia.
Yeah.
Hell yes. So very stoked to be discussing this film with you. If you guys would like to become a Patreon yourselves, we have all of the information in that link thing below. Tell us what to do, whether it's a film request or we even do commentaries, boogie boxes, if you want to really help us keep the lights on and support, greatly appreciated. So until next time, Freight fans, I have been Jaime Fuego.
And I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember, stay scared.